Hi there, this is Sherie Eubank with Healthy Out West. I'm the owner of Healthy Out West, and here we help people get well. I do notice, I'm going to talk about detoxing today, and I do notice that I have clients who come in and one of the main goals is, of course, increase of energy they want, and they want to lose weight. And they go, is there some kind of detox? Is there something I can do? I do sell Standard Process. Standard Process has a whole kit that you can do that's a cleanse that does kind of work. The cleanse only works though if you're eating the right foods. It always goes back to food. It goes back to eating the right food and exercise. I do find that there's certain foods all the time that cause the weight gain. And foods like wheat, any kind of gluten, definitely creates a huge weight gain problem. Cow dairy is a huge problem. I did a previous video, and you can look back in the link, on the 5 white things we call white death. And those are 2 that are listed. You can go back and look at that. But to really talk about detox, my favorite way, and the way that's the fastest way to detox, of course, is always the hardest. So the hardest way, but the fastest way to actually detox the liver and to detox the pancreas, and I think it's about the only way to really detox the pancreas well, is fasting. It's the hardest. And it's fasting, not just intermittent fasting, but fasting for days. I often recommend 3 to 5 day fasts. It's not something that I recommend for the first client that comes to see me. I tell people this, I'm like, okay, if you're climbing a set of stairs and I tell you, I want you to get to the 3rd floor, but I tell you, you can't use the elevator or the stairs, how are you going to get to the 3rd floor, right? So this is an area where we say it's really not much of a gradient. A gradient would be 1 step and another step and another step and another step, right? There have been times, I can think of one client in particular, that her liver and pancreas were so clogged up and I was not getting anywhere even with supplements. And with her, I had to look her right in the eye and say, I need you to get to the 3rd floor without using the elevator or the stairs, and you're going to fast for me if you want to continue. And she did it. And actually, she is done fabulously well and really healed her whole body. She lost lots of weight, really feels good. Her energy is good, way different from when we started. But I started her really hard, and I had to. I just couldn't get anywhere. In her specific situation, I just couldn't get anywhere unless she fasted. So, of course, there's water fasts. I have had a number of clients do juice fasting. Juice fasting is excellent. I've had people do as much as 10-day juice fasts. Juice fasts are definitely easier, but very good at cleaning the liver and the pancreas. Pancreas is much harder to clean than the liver. The liver sometimes, because it's our normal filter and our body just filters out toxins. So here's one of the things that I tell people about. I'm like, okay, so say you're driving down the road and you're behind a school bus and you breathe in all this diesel fuel and you notice, and there might be that little button you push on the car thing, go, okay, just internal air only because you got this bus in front of you that you're, breathing in the diesel fuel. Your lungs breathe that in. So here you go, you got diesel fuel particles in your lungs. Most of us never even think about it. It's part of our world, right? So you breathe that into your lungs, what happens to it? Your body actually picks it up and slowly but surely gathers all that stuff up, dumps it down into the liver filters it, right? So that's an environment situation. What about foods? There's a lot of foods that we eat that have preservatives in them. Different kinds of things, say that we go out to eat, you don't always know what you're eating when you go out to eat. A number of the clients who come see me are very health conscious and very interested in eating all organic and that kind of thing. But there's a whole nother avenue of people who, live on soft drinks and, health food that is fast food that's unhealthy, right? So those kinds of things end up really affecting the way the liver functions. So depending on, if you had a donut that morning, if you've had a donut every morning, if you've had whatever you've been consuming regularly, those toxins are affecting the liver. One of the reasons I say that wheat and gluten is so bad for the human body is because the wheat and gluten that we have here in the United States that's available to us is a genetically altered grain. Which means, so I actually had, my mom has passed on now, but I had the opportunity of visiting with her. I've been owner of Healthy Out West for 19 years. So it's been a while. Anyway, but I had an opportunity to just really visit with her one day, and one of the books that I had recommended that she read, it's an excellent book, it's called Wheat Belly. It was on the bestseller list for a long time. Anyway, she read it, and one of the things that was eye-opening to her is her dad, her dad was a farmer, and her dad grew wheat at one point. And he was in North Dakota, right near Williston is where he had his land. And he planted wheat and decided never to do it again because the wind blows really well through there. And so he had wheat that was standing up high, and of course the wheat has a strong, heavy stalk on the top of it. The wind literally came through, knocked the whole field flat, and he got no harvest out of it. So back in those days, there was a lot of farmers that were having those kinds of problems, and they said, we don't want to, plant wheat. Why plant the wheat? We just lose the harvest. So instead what they started doing is they started genetically altering it. So instead of the stalk being this tall, it's now this tall, right? They wanted to make the stalk shorter so that the wind didn't blow it over. So they accomplished that, and they've done all different kinds of things to genetically alter the grain, but that's one of the things that makes it harder for us to digest it, because they've made it a harder grain. Not only everything from the stalk, but the little kernels are harder for us to digest than they used to be, right? So there are different places in the world where wheat is actually a healthy substance to consume. One of those places is Italy. Italy, it's against the law to have a genetically altered grain, and it's against the law to spray the wheat. That is not so in the United States. So in the United States, we now have wheat that they consider Roundup Ready wheat. Roundup Ready wheat means that they can spray it with Roundup so that they kill the weeds, but it won't affect the kernel of the wheat, right? So the problem with that is that unfortunately we are eating glyphosate, or what we call Roundup, right? We are consuming it. So that is another toxin that ends up affecting the liver. One of the foods that is the hardest food on people's overall health in the United States is wheat and gluten. It's one of the main ones I'm most of the time telling people you have to quit eating it. And depending on the person, it can be a very challenging thing to do because they want to be able to eat their bread. There is different options. Of course, there's gluten-free breads. You can make oat bread. Some people use einkorn, which is a healthier grain, different kinds of things, and they make their own bread, and that works very well. But if you really want to clean the liver and you go, okay, I don't necessarily want to quit eating gluten or whatever, you're just a random person who's come across this video, right? So one great thing to do would be a diet like Whole30. Do whole foods, but stay away from the wheat and the grain. Stay away from sugar. Sugar is very damaging to everything in the body. Sugar is, I tell people all the time, I'm like, okay, we have a flu season in this country. It starts with Halloween and it ends with Easter. And you have Halloween, and then you have Thanksgiving, and then you have Christmas, and then you have New Year's, and then you have Valentine's Day, and then you have Easter. And people don't actually start feeling good and getting better until the summertime, when all of a sudden they're exercising more because they're out hiking, they're out doing things, and of course they're not consuming as much sugar. So that is definitely one of the things. But a couple other things, we can put this in the link below, but I do have a recipe I oftentimes give out that really helps to just open up that liver, get that liver to flush. It's a recipe that I give out often when people are sick. I had a lot of people when they were sick with COVID, I'm like, okay, you got to open up that liver. You've got to get if you're coughing, if you're congested in the sinuses, congested in the chest, you have got to open up the liver. The liver sits right here. It's a very large organ. The lungs filter right down into the liver. So if you're congested here, I guarantee you the liver is congested. If the liver was not congested, you would not be congested here. So I tell people, okay, I want you to do, and I give them out this recipe. It has lemon, apple cider vinegar, cayenne pepper. We can put it down below. I tell people when they make this, it's a drink, but when they make it, the amount that I give is good for 2 days. I tell them to sip it and drink it for 2 days. And then if they like that feeling, they can do it again the following week. If they don't get rid of their congestion, I find with this particular recipe, people will love it. They love the way they feel with it. And they go, oh, it tasted great. And then they hit a point where they don't need it anymore. And they're like, I think I'm kind of done. And it does do that for you. You'll get to a point where you're like, oh, I just can't hardly get enough. And then you get to the point where you're like, your body will tell you when it's done with it. So there is that. What else can I say about detoxing? Going back to the area of fat. So your fat cells are very important to your body, even though you don't like them there. The fat cells are important because they hang on to any kind of toxin. And those toxins, of course, would affect the running of the liver, the health of the heart, the health of the lungs, the health of all the rest of the organs. Your fat cells actually consume and hold on to toxins, and this is one of the reasons why people struggle with weight loss. So again, it's a cleansing diet, something where you're just not putting a lot of toxins. Whole foods, juice fasting, that kind of thing can work. It's amazing to me. I just finished with a vacation that I took, and you get to visit with different people, and I ran into a few different medical health people on my journey. Anyway, they were saying how many people come in and ask the medical doctor for medications like Ozempic just to drop the weight because they don't want to have to change their diet. They don't want to have to fast or exercise a lot. And maybe they're exercising a lot and still not losing weight. I do find that that is a problem, and it has a lot to do with cleaning the liver and the pancreas. So again, you can always come into Healthy Out West. I actually help all the time with people cleaning their liver and their pancreas and testing them for the right foods to eat. Another thing that we offer, which we'll go into more detail in another video, is nutritional blood chemistry. It can really tell us how their body is reacting to certain foods by looking at the blood test. So thank you so much for listening. We'll talk to you next time.